First thing I want to talk about, Garrett, is stance width. You've grown a lot, your legs have gotten very big, okay, so it is important that we have a little bit of space between the legs so we don't encounter any resistance snapping the ball down and through, okay, but you might be setting up a little bit too wide. And we talked about that today. You get too wide, a lot of problems can happen. Number one, the wider you get, the less you can sit down into the stance, so your center of gravity gets higher and higher. Number two, when you do sit into it, you're going to generate a lot of tension in the hip flexors. That'll slow you down. You'll have to fight through that tension and overcome it to accelerate the football. Okay. Number three, it actually becomes harder to balance yourself because your center of gravity is high. Number four, you're just not going to have any mobility after the snap. You're going to get beat. Okay. And the fifth thing is there's a real tendency when you're too wide to finish with locked out knees. That is truly the quickest path to a short career I know in the game of football. Yeah, okay. So we got to get those feet up and under you. In the game of football, you always got to have your feet up and under you for balance, leverage, mobility, power, all those things that matter, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So your normal stance is wider than the shoulders. A snapping stance is probably 4, 6, 8, in your case maybe 10 inches wider than your regular stance. But when we sit into it, the important thing is, number one, no pressure on the hip flexors. Number two, you want the load bearing to be on your quads. That's the most comfortable and explosive position from which you can start. Let's go ahead and set up. It's important to see the knees slightly wider than the shoulders. Go ahead. Does that feel comfortable? No pressure up here. Okay, go ahead and stand up. The other things you can do is you could try pointing the toes slightly outward. That'll get the knees out of the way without getting your feet any wider. And number two, when you sit into it, just push your knees out over the toes. Clear some space there. Those are all good techniques you can use, okay? Now go ahead and stand over here real quickly. The other things that we had going on, you have a fantastic head-to-tail platform, just nice and straight and aligned. Really allows for good weight distribution and balance around the center of gravity. That leads to leverage and allows you to throw powerfully, okay? The things that we had, you were a little bit flat-footed, okay? We want to be on the balls of the feet, and the way we measure that is we want to have those knees directly over the toes, okay? Optimal balance so that we can drive off the balls of the feet, back and up into the hips towards our target, so that the lower body motion energy converges with the upper body motion energy on an arrow point, and all of that power is directed straight back towards our target. Any questions on that? Okay. Now, the other thing you had is you were underextended. You had the ball pretty much right down below you, so you had a pretty severe throw hitch because you had to pick it up and then throw it. All right? So what we did to address that, number one, is we elevated your head-to-tail platform a little bit, pulled your weight forward, got the knees over the toes, okay, got the ball better extended. That took care of a whole bunch of it. The other thing I was suggesting is that you lead the snap with your arms. Start with the throw, okay, and work on a concept of trying to get the ball from point A to point B, say right here, as fast as possible. And the way to do that is pull the elbows through and the hands through to that point. See what I'm doing there? Scoop it down and through. Pull it through. And you can work on that all summer. But when we got you set up right and had you throwing quickly, there were times when the hitch was totally eliminated already. I don't think we have a major problem if we get you set up right to begin with, okay? So that's what I'd like you to do. The last thing we had is as you were snapping, you were flailing the feet out to the sidelines. Bleeding energy that way, number one, and again, leaving you in a very compromised position at the end of the snap. We want that drive off the balls of the feet, almost like dodging an inside pitch, okay? And that way we can channel that energy and capture it. Go ahead and set up. We're going to three-step you real quickly. Kane, once you run them through twice, you can get them on field goals. Okay? I'm going to three-step you. Ready? First thing I'm going to do is pull you forward, ensuring knee bend is 90 degrees or less, straightening the back and fully extending the arms. Then I'm going to raise you up. Ah, you're all slick. Maximizing operating room under your torso. Okay? Then I'm going to push you back into the hips till the heels touch the ground, knees are over the toes, and you're solid on your feet. Notice when I do that, it's back towards your target, not down towards the ground. Okay? You feel solid? You're a big guy, you're getting big and aggressive in the stance, that's good. You might want to bend the knees just a touch more. Does that feel more comfortable? Looks like a more aggressive stance. Throw it hard. Colby. Much less of a hitch, okay? Let's do that one more time. And the leg drive's improved as well. You're very coachable. That's the observation. Yep. So coming in, you were underextended, you had the ball right up under you, you were flat-footed, you were a little wide. So what we did is we raised you up a little bit, pulled you forward, got you balanced, and then we let you settle back down to a comfortable and aggressive, fundamentally sound football stance, okay? The last thing we can do is hobble your feet where I stand next to you. Make sure you drive back towards your target and not out towards the sidelines. Okay? Now, getting a little tall in the rear, probably fatiguing.
Yes, sir.
Settle that rear down more because that time you hitched the rear at the start simply because you were too tall on the back end. Okay? Let's fix that. That's not something we normally see out of you. Okay? So I'm not going to make a big deal of it right now, but let's just make sure you're good on that. Yeah, I know. So I don't want to overdo you. But what I do want you to do this time before we do that, just drag the elbows and the ball through to point A to point B like we talked about earlier. Now do it twice and then throw it. 1, 2, throw it. There you go. I didn't get my hand out of the way fast enough. Sorry about that. You get the point though. That's going to help you eliminate that hitch as well. Lead with the arms. Quick with the throw. The throw initiates the rest of the body motion, okay? Let's set you up one more time and check the flailing feet. Just going to put cones on either side of your heel, outside the heel about 2 inches. Stay within that zone as you drive back into the hips. I don't care if you slide as long as the motion energy goes back into the hips, okay? Okay, looking good. Settle you down. If you get pressure on the hip flexors, let me know. Is that comfortable? We want to be pretty flat, shoulders to hips for a blind snapper. How's that feel?
Good.
That's on your way to world class. If we're pretty flat shoulders to hips, everything is set up to go straight at your target. You can throw harder and harder and harder, and you're not going to end up trending high.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions?
No, sir.
Looking good. Let's. Remember, don't get too tall in the rear. We don't want to start rear hitching. Reach that up and snap right down again so you can walk the position. I can live with that. All right, balance, solid, driving straight back, resetting after the snap.